we will begin this interaction this way this evening of your time with the idea of some of the momentum and the releasing of the energy ideas in what you call your electromagnetic field, your physiological spectral field, and the idea of what you call plate movement in your planet. The idea of the settling in this way of the crystalline form into a new format, the idea of the releasing of energy in various forms in this way, so that you can participate and partake of this type of energy and rechannel it in creative ways as an example and an exemplification of the idea that you now know that as these are reflections, these movements, these releases of energy are reflections of the idea of your own transformation and all the changes taking place within you, all the settlings and shiftings taking place within each and every individual in your society, specifically within the area that you find yourself attracted to, with a great deal of the release of that energy in that area, then simply understand this is your opportunity to rechannel that energy, to know that you are releasing the energy in comfortable amounts, acclimatizational amounts in this way, so that you can know that you now have the opportunity to recognize, bit by bit, as you allow these energies to come through in acceptable levels, in comfortable manners, that you do not necessarily need to experience the idea of your transformation, what you call a negative destruction, but can rechannel what primarily, let us say, formerly may have been the idea of one large negative release into many smaller releases in this way, so that you know you are regulating the flow of this energy, so that you can utilize it in many positive ways, now knowing that any transformation you go through in this way does not have to be representative of the idea that you deserve happiness only by going through trials by fire, but that you know that happiness and ecstasy are your birthrights, and that you can ease the release of this energy, channeling it in more positive ways through your actual physiological forms, and then releasing it into your environment, with each and every one of you therefore acting as, in a sense, a safety valve. When you, each and every one of you, are willing to be your own master crystals and your own harmonic resonance, the vibratory frequency, the rate of vibration at which you fluctuate, at which you pulsate, will form synchronous harmonic resonant frequencies, sympathetic vibrations, so to speak, with the idea of your earth crustal plate and electromagnetic vibratory energy fluctuation releases, and you can form a congruency and identification with this energy to act as a channel, to act as a valve for the release of this energy in moderate ways that will allow you to know you are definitely in control of all the reality you experience, including the idea of your relationship to your actual planetary form and atmospheric form in this way. Now, recognize that in no way, shape, and or form do we impart the idea of the information we are about to impart with the idea of generating fear and or panic within you. But in this way, we have promised you to keep you posted. So in this way, you will find that as we read the energy now, and you remember what we have said about the idea of predictions, there is no such thing as a prediction of the future. There is only the sensing of the energy that exists at the time the prediction is made. It can change. Nothing is chiseled in steel, as you say. And recognize that many times the awareness of a so-called prediction can, in and of itself, change the outcome, simply because now you are aware that such an opportunity, such a possibility exists. And so you may use that as an opportunity to change the idea if you find you do not prefer it. However, no need for fear in this way. As we read the energy at this time, there is a high degree of probable likelihood that from what you call this moment forward and spanning to the next, what you call 72 hours, there is the high probability of experiencing 2 to 3 of what you would call tremors, perhaps 2 in the area that we are communicating with you in, 1 a little bit more remotely, more in the area you have been experiencing some of the larger tremors in what you call the idea of your borderline between the state you call California and the state you call Nevada in this way. These ideas of the 1 and what you call the borderline between the 2 states can be in the range of the idea of 6s and or 7, and in this way the idea of the tremors you can experience in your area, the 1 or 2 tremors you can experience within the next idea of what you call 72 hours in this way, can be more in the ranges of what you call 5s as you measure magnitudes in this way. These will, once again, allow you the opportunity to experience minute releases of energy, to know you are creating yourselves to be your own gateways, and that you are taking as much of the energy as you can tolerate comfortably and transforming it and releasing it in this way so that everything can even out, balance out within you, all the shiftings taking place within your personality structure as you are crystallizing within yourself and within your planet as well, as it is only a reflection of all the shiftings that are taking place within each and every one of you anyway. Allowing yourselves this opportunity to balance and not become fixated upon the idea through fear will begin to allow you to know you are in control of your reality. Now, understand also something else about the idea that if there are individuals who simply wish to partake of the idea of being within an experience that you call a quake, simply recognize that if they happen to be in that area and you have no need of experiencing that tool, then you simply will find yourself automatically, synchronistically, coincidentally, having to be in another area at that time. So again, simply recognize this is an opportunity to know what reality you know to be true for you, knowing that anything you are willing to allow to be a tool, to allow to be a message, to bring you another part of yourself that you may integrate in yourself, if you are willing to allow it to happen in any way, shape, or form, then you can. Simply perceive to yourself, asking yourself, well, if you did experience these ideas, being within your tremors, being within your quakes, how would it serve you? What service would it provide for you? This can give you the opportunity to understand what the message is that would be delivered in such a situation, and thereby give yourselves an opportunity to recognize that if you are willing to accept that same message in other ways, then you can allow other ways to deliver that message to you, and you do not have to shake yourselves away. You follow me?
Yes.
Sure. You!
I'd like to address the same subject from a fairly physical standpoint and get your reflection on it. The scientists, the seismologists are saying that, at least the reports I've heard, is that the amount of energy that the San Andreas fault is building up that needs to be released is such that there's a tremendous amount of physical movement within the fault itself, so much so that these small releases will not be able to take off all the energy, and we're in for a big one in about 30 years.
Understand in this way, again, it is not impossible that such is an idea, but do remember that they are basing their predictions from the point of view in which they are coming. And the idea is that they themselves already know that they know very little about the idea of what it is that does interconnect in all these forces subterraneanly. In this way, do recognize, as we have said, there is an opportunity also for the construction of devices in this way. Whether or not your scientists will consider them valid is not the point, but in this way, in our perception, there is an idea that you can, quote-unquote, build, in a sense, a pit out of what you call stone and or brick, approximately 6 feet in diameter, approximately 6 feet deep, around the idea on either side of what you call the fault line. And in the center of these pits have what you call the idea of a pole, approximately 6 inches in diameter, approximately the idea of 6 feet in your terms of length sticking above the ground, approximately the idea of 3 feet below 9 feet total in this way. It can be what you call steel tube with copper tube jacketing it on the outside and atop this pole, which sticks out from the bottom of the pit 6 feet into the air in this way, the idea of a 6-inch diameter clear quartz crystal. These ideas can function as subterranean antennas and can, in a sense, siphon off some of the energy and release it into the atmosphere in different ways. Now, it may affect some of the idea of the climatology around, but it may also release some of the strain of what you call the subterranean pressures in this way, in the form of the idea of electromagnetic energy. Not so much the idea of the actual physiological pressure in this way, but it can release the strain by allowing there to be a crystallization of some of the electromagnetic fields round about that area, and therefore allow some of the strain, so to speak, to be released by being transformed and channeled into another type of energy. You may say in this way that these ideas are, in a sense, then transformers of a certain type.
I see. How many of these would be required? How many pairs would be required?
In this way, you will find that it is not even in number, and there always will be an odd number on one side and an even number on the other. Therefore, allow yourself in any given area to simply start with the idea of 3, you may go to 5, you may go to 7 in that way, around any given area within the span of what you call 1 mile in length.
So there'd be a whole bunch of them along the entire length of the...
But also if you feel there is a particular area that in your understanding has a great deal of symbolic representation in being an area of high degree of pressure, you may simply concentrate in that area, and it can act as a valve for a majority of the rest of the area, if that is where all the forces are focused.
I see. Now, you said that the pole was 6 feet above the surface, but the pit is 6 feet deep, so actually the tip of the pole would be even with the... 3
feet into the ground below the pit.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. Right. Guys.
The last two earthquakes we've had, I woke up about 2 minutes before.
Hey.
Okay. What's that all about? Because
You are sensitive to the electromagnetic vibrations. Allow me to ask each and every one of you right now, how are your hearts and sinuses feeling? In this way, do you find that some of you may have had the idea of increased sensitivity in the sinus area and or the idea you call palpitations of the chest? These are both indicative in the sinus area of electromagnetic sensitivity as there are electromagnetic fluctuations within your atmosphere. You have a high degree of the substance called magnetite in your sinus cavity, and these are sensitive to electromagnetic shifting. Your heart, in this way, is an organ, and it is sensitive to low-frequency vibratory structures that are given off by the idea you call impending quakes. In this way, therefore, many of you will translate some of these energies through the idea of your heart and or sinus areas, and some of you may find that there will be the idea of some degree of headache and or pressure in the sinus area, and or what you call chest pain and or heart palpitations. These are your ways of recognizing that you are becoming more consciously sensitive to shifts and changes of frequency and vibratory structure in your environment, and these can act as your own sensors and or what you would call warning systems. There are many different degrees of patterns in which these ideas will come, and depending upon what other associative ideas you may feel in other parts of your body, can even determine within the idea, if you consider your body to be a map of your entire planet, as to exactly where these ideas will occur in your world.
So the range has the abrupt range.
To some degree, it is one of the ideas of some of that electromagnetic release going into the climatology of your planet. There are many electromagnetic and atmospheric pattern shiftings taking place, and still an opportunity for that idea of the release of energy in many different ways, including the crustal plates, within the next 72 hours.
if we want to transform that energy, how do we do that?
Simply understand that you are the reality you know yourself to be, and as we have said, if you know that being in such an idea, being party to the idea of the release of such energy in that way serves a purpose for you, you can simply ask yourself what purpose it serves. Now understand, you are all gathered in the area that you call your locale for a reason, because many of you like that energy. In this way, many of you like living on the edge. So you are very excited and energized by feeling this type of energy. Even though you may find that your conscious self may generate a degree of fear, you find that you are actually quite invigorated and moved by this idea in many different ways, and perhaps spurred on to greater creativity and release of your own willingness to act upon what you know to be true for you. In this way, therefore, simply recognize that as we perceive the energy, we are not talking about something devastating. We are talking about something that is of a level of energy that you can utilize. Go into your creative imagination and allow yourself to communicate with that portion of yourself that would be involved in such an incident, and allow yourself to simply ask yourself, how can that energy serve you? Then you will allow it to transmute and transform into whatever methodology and or pattern and or way will serve you. And you will simply act like it, finding yourself acting upon your instincts and acting upon the opportunities that present themselves to you, wherein, therefore, you will find a way to transform and transliterate that energy into your day-to-day experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Sean,
Hey.
you want to get a psychic prediction and talk about the big quake. How do you see that? What are these things?
Are you paying attention?
Will there be this big destructive quake? California specific, break off into the ocean and all that.
In our perception, no. There does not have to be, at least not for quite some time.
And all the predictions of like
Once again, a prediction is a sensing of the energy that is most likely to occur at the time the prediction is made. There is no such thing as a prediction of the future. Now, once again, understand, it is not impossible for there to be locales upon your planet that do experience the idea of what you call devastating quakes. But in this way, first of all, they are not quote-unquote as devastating worldwide as you think, because you are isolating these incidents, and you will simply find yourself wherever it is you need to be. If you are in such an area, you will not be in such an area when such an incident occurs. And in this way, you can also know that you can even transform the entire energy of an area, so that you can realize it does not have to occur that way. For the only reason such a thing would occur is if you collectively were not willing to take responsibility for the creation of your realities. You follow me?
Isn't it also true that the scientists are basing this on a certain physiological fixed set of stable data which don't take into account the electromagnetic patterns that the energy can transfer into.
And many other ideas. As of yet, your scientists have not included consciousness in their equations.
Thank you.
There recently, well, I think today or yesterday.
Speak up.
Today or yesterday, there were hurricane conditions in Hawaii. Is that also?
It is all part of the energy shiftings in the vortices, what you call the chakra points of your world in this way, as they are all beginning to blend. Many of these ideas, therefore, will experience the release of these energies in vortex patterns, what you call swirling in that way, in many different forms. It is all simply that it is an indication that every single one of these energy points upon your planet is connected to every single other energy point. Thus there are shiftings and balancings and blendings taking place every moment of time. These same shiftings, balancings, and blendings are also taking place within each and every one of you, and you may all, once again, begin through this time to experience a higher degree of what would seem to be disorientation. Yes, can translate as tiredness.
Bashar,
Yes!
you suggest a series of ways in which, from a mathematical and electromagnetic viewpoint, we can start to introduce consciousness within the equations of physics.
Mostly in this way, it may take the form of the recognition of low and high frequency vibrations as they do in fact affect your corporeal form. In this way, you may allow there to be an avenue that your scientists may participate in if they recognize that there is, to some degree, a physiological effect. There are many, many patterns that can be, in your terms, measured, many patterns that can be listed, many patterns that can be put into statistical form in this way, if they are but willing to recognize that your human bodies do respond to your electromagnetic environment, then they will be able and be willing to catalog these effects as they find people experiencing them.
So if we were to put a feedback item in the equation in which the human structure was represented as both a cause function and a receive function that altered the patterns of electromagnetic.
Do understand that it is, in a sense, quote unquote, quite astonishing that your scientists, even though they may be willing to invent many different devices to sense many different things, do not understand that your physical body contains the ability to sense anything they could build a device to represent.
Right. That's been more or less a philosophical evolution on the planet from the viewpoint of promotion to exclude consciousness and to focus on a physiological viewpoint. I think it's come about through that.
But even from a physiological standpoint, they can simply understand that if your human form is, quote-unquote, the product of millions of years of biological evolution, then it should be able to receive and perceive almost any fluctuation that goes on within the planet that gave life and birth to such a body.
That's a good one.
It is intimately connected, even physiologically.
So you use it as a reflecting matrix.
Yes! Always a barometer if you are willing to pay attention. Thank you! Sharing! Hey!
Can you help me understand the purpose of the situation? My daughter has had an ear infection for the past 3 weeks, which kind of hung on. And it created a situation where I chose not to let her fly to Florida on vacation. And will you help me understand the purpose of the situation and...
Is there something that individual does not wish to listen to?
I don't know.
What are your feelings about the idea of what you would call your relationship in that way, and information you think that she may need that she does not necessarily need?
At the moment, I don't feel that I'm not aware of anything that she feels that she needs to know.
Then simply in this way, allow there to be also an understanding that many times individuals will create for themselves such limitations and such restrictions, knowing that they are in an environment that is interacting with you. Whereas the idea of any such traveling would be restricted. Perhaps there is something in this way that is representative of something within herself she has learned not to listen to, and so is forcing herself in this way to pay attention to certain things inwardly. The idea can also be exemplified as an opportunity to recognize that you do not have to travel any distance at all to have at hand exactly what you need. It is all part of the idea of her own evolvement, her own evolution within the idea of the choices she made in this physical life. You are simply being a willing reflection of this idea in that way. But it is something quite personal within that individual according to choices, decisions, and agreements that she has made within herself.
Okay. Could it have anything to do with, I was feeling some hesitancy about letting her go on this vacation, which I resolved within myself.
In this way, it may be that she also, as we have said, recognizes that the idea of the information she requires can be had at hand, and in this way may simply be picking up on your understanding that there may have been on that journey an opportunity to come face to face with many portions of herself, but perhaps in a negative way rather than a positive way. Now, many individuals create the idea of dis-ease to allow themselves to take stock of the situation that they have at hand, and therefore recognize they do not have to go running hither-thither, as you say, in this way. And that the idea can be assimilated once they come to terms with the idea that they can be just as comfortable at home with themselves as anywhere else in that way. Then they will understand there is no need to form fears and create experiences that would, in that sense, perhaps drive them to the wish of remaining at home. Follow me?
Yes.
You may simply be sensing and picking up on the idea that there was a high degree of probability for that individual to have created for herself in the traveling a degree of negative situations that she has also now very clearly and very neatly circumvented.
Thank you.
It is simply that it is an opportunity for her to begin listening to herself and trust her instincts in many different ways. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar,
Hey.
would you give me some additional insight to the rise of King David to becoming king over Israel and Judah as far as the Bible is concerned? Are you familiar with that symbology?
To some degree. Do you mean referential to your present day or your past?
Present day.
The symbology that we can perceive is simply this. The idea of that particular quote-unquote lineage in your civilization is connected in many different ways to many different ideas. There are many different substrata, many different cultures in your society on different levels than you even realize within the cultures that you experience physiologically. In this way, that particular lineage of people has a connective conscious reference to many different extraterrestrial sources in that way, and you will simply find that they are quite a different genetic pattern in that sense, both physiologically and non-physiologically. It is simply a symbolic representation in the terms of that particular cultural branch in your civilization of a cognition, of an equalization and the ending of an automatic genetic pattern that will now facilitate a need and a necessity for them to automatically understand their own control in the creation of their own realities and thus recognize within themselves their own relationship to all that is, their own relationship to that which they have for a long period of time simply recognized as the God outside themselves, which they can now afford themselves the opportunity to recognize as the God within themselves. It is another type of a reflection of what is referred to by another cultural faction in your society as the second coming, which is not the idea of the exemplification of the Christ consciousness in a single individual, but the recognition of the Christ consciousness within everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Sure.
Bashar?
Sure.
A couple weeks ago, I was listening to the synchronicity tapes where someone asked you different emotions and you gave definitions. I'd like to do the same thing. Let's see, I wrote a couple down here. What is risking?
Risk?
Yes.
Well, it is not an emotion.
Well, a feeling of risking.
The idea is simply lack of trust. The feeling that you can possibly do something that would not be a part of the path you chose to be. It is a belief that you can somehow be off the path you are, which is not possible.
Okay. What about fear of rejection? Seems to be a
Self-judgment.
Self-judgment.
Do not forget that almost anything you are going to suggest that in any way, shape, or form poses what you perceive to be a limitation in that sense is all going to stem fundamentally from judgment.
How would you break that? Self-judgment, or, how would you deal with that?
By trusting. By trusting that you are deserving of all the ecstasy you can create. And that is your birthright.
And in the moment when you're feeling undeserving,
Then treat it as an opportunity. An opportunity for you to come face to face with a portion of yourself that you have not discovered up until that point. And trust that even the negative situation serves you positively because now it has given you an opportunity to discover more of yourself that you can now integrate into the total you.
Okay, one other thing. I just heard a piece of the tape, but I didn't hear the explanation. Where you said guilt was the opposite of love, not hate. Could you explain that? Because I didn't hear the difference.
Thank you. Love is the complete understanding and sharing and exchange of the idea of deservability and worthiness. Everything being equal. Everything being valid. Unconditional love. Guilt is the judgment in that way of the self of lack of worthiness, lack of deservability. Therefore, that is the opposite. Hate is simply another form of love attachment after having passed through the filter of guilt. It is a type of polarity of love, but it is not exactly the opposite of love. It is not the lack of deservability. For hate still carries a belief in deservability, whereas guilt does not.
Okay, but basically if I worked on trust...
You do not have to work on trust.
That's true. If I was with trust, then all those other emotions or feelings would basically change, or I would recreate the reality.
There really is only one primary emotion, love. Everything else is a variation and or a separation of that.
Okay, thank you, Bashar.
Thank you! Sharon! Hey! Speak up.
Is there such a thing as release and conviction? Releasing, say the process of releasing, is there...
Yes. If you have created the idea that you are in a situation that requires release, then releasing is real.
Okay, what about conviction?
Same thing. It is trust.
Does that have the need for physiological, say, motivation inside, or conviction?
Conviction is simply the willingness to trust that what you know to be true for you is. Then act like it. That is conviction. It is trust. Conviction is acting like you believe. Trust is all there is. Follow your excitement. Knowing that in that way, your excitement can only be representative of the path you chose to be. Acting like you know that is conviction. Has that assisted you?
Yeah.
All right.
Something else.
Yes.
If there have been times in the last couple of weeks that I have been very hard.
Yes.
And there have oftentimes there's an alignment process going on, and I accept the confusion.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Yes.
Well, what do I do when I'm driving down the road and I'm speeding?
Pull over.
Is there an internal thing that I can do other than closing? Is there something else other than physiologically going over it?
Use your imagination. You may, if you wish, allow yourself to become fascinated by the synchronicity of everything around you. That may be one way. Knowing that nothing around you is there by accident. And thereby recognizing that you play a part in the connection of all that is in that way, and therefore can recognize that you are connected to everything you see around you, and therefore recognize that you are everything you see around you. Perhaps that will wake you up.
Well, it's interesting in that consciousness, it's my judgment that, that it's connected to something.
Understand that you are experiencing transformation, and it is only your judgment of the transformation you are experiencing that is making you tired. Transformation does not make you tired.
Okay, and I'm aware of that.
All right then, act like you are aware of it. Just driving along thinking you are aware of it is not the same as acting like you are aware of it.
Explain acting. Explain how one acts.
If you find, once again, that you are driving your vehicle and you become tired to the point in that way where nothing you can conceive of in your imagination will suffice, then simply trust that all you need to do is the simply obvious thing, pull over. You see, if you are forcing yourself to ignore what you think may be a mundane idea and not a, so to speak, spiritual way to handle the situation, then you are denying that pulling your car over is just as spiritual as anything else. And it may actually be what you need to do, because who knows who might show up while you are pulled over. Maybe exactly the person you need to meet. Maybe the dream you exactly need to have at that time will be there waiting for you when you go to sleep. Who knows?
I've considered pulling over.
Do understand that many times you will simply force yourself not to pay attention to what immediately comes in your imagination as the obvious thing to do, because you think there should be something else, some other way to do it.
Well, no.
Or you think you are so very busy you cannot stop.
Well, when you say busy, that's true, because there are many times that I am actually doing a job.
All right, but once again, do remember that we told you that many times, if you are going to be integrating your energy, you will be more likely to fall into the sleep-awake pattern that represents being awake at night and asleep in the day. And therefore, you may find that you need another job to accommodate the new schedule of your own energy pattern, and not the other way around. Thank you.
This idea about the sleep-awake pattern, it's new to me.
Your biological systems as a whole are far more energetically creative at between 2 and 4 a.m.
Yes.
and far less creative energetically between 2 and 4 p.m.
So would it be wise to try to schedule awake times at 2 to 4 and sleep times during the day?
In a sense, you simply find that it's not a matter of the idea of having to schedule anything, but if you allow yourself to begin to integrate, you will simply be awake when you need to be awake and sleep when you need to sleep, regardless of the idea of any so-called sociological structure you have already created. You will change that sociological structure, knowing that you can change it, because if you are giving yourself a new sleep pattern, then you can simply assume that there will be anything else you need to go along to fit that pattern, including a job. Simply recognize that the idea in that way is also that as soon as you are willing to fall into a pattern that is more biologically natural for you, you will then make all the connections you need in less time, and you will probably need less sleep after all. Alright? Simply follow the idea. Do not judge yourself that when you find yourself awakening in the middle of the night, you think there is something wrong with you. Oh, I can't sleep. I must have the disease called insomnia. There must be something wrong with me. I can't sleep. There is nothing wrong with you. The idea that creates the disease is simply that you are judging that you are supposed to be asleep when your body is telling you that you are supposed to be awake. That is the only thing that creates the disease of insomnia. Judging your natural pattern. Simply because you are forcing yourself to fight your natural pattern by creating a type of society that says you have to be awake from such and such an hour to such and such an hour, and you have to be asleep from such and such an hour to such and such an hour. You've already. Yes. Then you.
A couple of things. In terms of acting, in order to answer this gentleman's question, I'm experiencing a real sensation of safe and knowingness. I was in Las Vegas trying to gamble.
Right.
Yeah, I lost $5 in quarters and
Then you did, in fact, gamble.
Yes, I did.
Right.
And I woke up one morning, actually one afternoon, in the middle of this place in this motel room, and I recognized at that moment that I wasn't where I wanted to be. So I packed my bags. I was there on business, and I left. And I got in the car at about 11:30 at night and drove back to L.A. And interestingly enough, in the middle of the trip, I thought I would have to pull over for about 15 or 20 minutes to sleep, which I've done several times. Pull over to the side of the road. And I pulled over to the side of the road, and as I pulled over and settled down, I saw one of the most beautiful shooting stars I've ever seen, or at least I think it was a shooting star. And then after the shooting star, I tried to go to sleep, thinking that that was the thing for me to do. But something said that that wasn't the thing for me to do. So I got back in the car, and I continued to drive home, and I saw a spaceship that had my 6th density being on it. And I knew that everything was right in place. It was a gift from myself to myself saying, you're doing the right thing.
Right.
So I came back without any rent, without any money, no job, in the middle of all of this, and have been looking for jobs in the last couple of days and have found a number of situations which are available to me as options if I want them. But what I wanted to share that with everyone because it took me, it was such an immediate decision that there wasn't any question about whether or not I should doubt it or go with it. It just happened.
Thank you.
And
for your willingness to be a reflection that when you act upon trust and follow what excites you, life is no gamble.
But there is something that is something I'm involved with, and that's this idea of karma.
Okay. Karma is completely self-imposed.
Yes, I understand that aspect of it. What I'm grappling with in terms of karma is, as I'm involved in this day-to-day, moment-to-moment, I'm starting to clearly see the roles I'm playing with other people in my life, that they're playing with me, and the reflections we're giving to each other. And I don't really need to know what the past relationships were in order to deal with the karma right now. But the issue that I'm grappling with is the recognition of what the reflection truly is. The recognition of what the karma is so that you can then make a move to change it. Does that make sense?
Yes, but it may be unnecessary. The idea of karma is simply another way of saying agreements you have made. Thus, if you simply live your life and allow your physical reality to be an obvious reflection of the path you chose to be, you will automatically, by simply watching the circumstances unfold, understand what the karma is.
I understand that I've made agreements with everyone in my life. Recognizing what those agreements mean.
You are missing the point.
Yes, I am.
If you simply trust that whatever agreements you have made are what you are experiencing as the situations that unfold in your life, you will let the physical reality you are experiencing be an obvious reflection of what those agreements are. You follow me?
And then, I don't like a lot of the agreements.
Understand, the idea of seeing a situation and being a situation that you find you do not prefer is, in and of itself, an opportunity to simply allow that situation to show you what you do prefer. As soon as you allow that situation to have served you in that way, and simply recognize what you do prefer, you are, at that moment, the reality you prefer. Period. All you need to do is act like you know you are the reality you have now been able to perceive that you prefer. There is no necessary process that you have to have in the middle.
I understand that.
That does not serve you. What is it you think you need to see as a signal in order to let you know what this so-called karma is? In what way do you imagine it would appear to you? Give an example.
In my imagination, scenarios that pop up into my head for seemingly no reason, or
when do you think these scenarios should pop in? During the interaction? Before or after?
Well, it's happened on a number of different occasions, different times.
It has.
I guess mostly when I'm sleeping or when I'm
Does it matter when it occurs?
No, not really.
Then why are you saying it does not occur? If you have already expressed that many times in different ways at different times, it does occur.
I think it has to, what I'm beginning to see is that what it has to do with is a sensation on my part of
you are looking for something.
Space.
But you are looking for a sensation that you think has to be there every time exactly when you think you need it to be there in order to make the situation valid for you in that way. Simply recognize that in many cases the agreements and the karma that you have created for yourself will by definition not allow you to be aware of what it is while the situation is going on, because if you were aware of what it is while the situation is going on, you may not be willing to allow the situation to come to completion. Simply understand that you know what you need to know when you need to know it. And if you don't know it, you don't need to. That is the recognition of karma as well.
But that brings up the issue. I am continually, more and more often I am living in the now and enjoying it, and loving it. And at the same time, paralleling that experience, there is this quest for knowingness, this quest for understanding, for growing, for expanding.
But you are saying the same thing. Living in the now is knowingness.
Yes, it is.
As soon as you think it is something different and parallel, you remove the experience from yourself.
I don't see it as being separate.
Then what makes you think you don't have knowingness?
It's probably an inner frustration with, it comes to trusting. Is it trusting that the consciousness or the unconsciousness, whoever is serving me?
It comes to trusting that whatever it is that is going on in your life is exactly what needs to be there. No more and no less. Then relax. What's your hurry? You are eternal. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
You are eternal. All of you are eternal. What's your rush?
Consideration that we're not eternal.
But now you know you are eternal.
Yeah, it's created and uncreated.
That is your choice. Act like you know you are eternal. Understand that no matter what you discover within any exploration within yourself, you are always, only ever going to wind up back here and now. Follow me. So relax. You are already there. Thank you. Proceed. Proceed.
After having heard this from Bashar for many weeks, I was a multidimensional being, and not really being able to put to use. Finally, this last week, this one just sort of came through my head. There are 16 pieces of me that need to be integrated. And I thought, oh, very interesting. But I had no need or desire simultaneously to know what they were. I didn't need to know. So what I did is I thought, okay, there's a piece that needs to be integrated. So I just sort of focused, and I felt something that made this idea what it was. And I said, you are loved, and you are now within me. And it was integrated. And I still don't know what it was. And I did this several times. I didn't even count until I didn't find anything more that seemed to be like it needs to be integrated. And then I quit doing it and went on about what I was doing. And later on, this idea keeps sailing through my head from nowhere again. There are 16 pieces that need to be integrated. So I found a few more and integrated them. And it's real interesting because I didn't need to know what they were. I didn't need to do anything but just know that they were loved and integrated into me. And I had the most wonderful week this week. Bashar also finally got it through, excuse me, Bashar, through my thick skull last week, that if you know that the universe supports you, it does.
Hey.
Now, I have had body problems that were absolutely gross. My whole spine, my whole frame has been totally out of whack since 1980, and I've been going to the chiropractor since 1980. But finally, last week, it finally got through to me. If I know I am connected to the universe and know that the universe will support me, it will.
Hey.
And my body problems started dissipating. I went to the chiropractor today, and he said, my God, I haven't seen you in this kind of shape since you started coming to me. Yeah, I finally realized what I was doing to myself. Now I'm letting the universe support me. So that's a couple of wins, and I have some more if there's some more time.
Do you mean to tell me and all these people that it is that simple? Thank you. always will be.
And to find out, you try so hard to make it complicated. When you finally find it, it was sitting there right in front of your face all this time.
Okay.
It was just as simple as that.
Okay. Thank you very much for being a willing reflection of the all that is, expressing itself through the unique facet of the being you have chosen to be, and allowing that to be a reflection and a service to all in this interaction. Yes!
I have many different symptoms, and physical symptoms right now, and I do choose to be, I have been choosing to be supported by the universe and whatnot, and the symptoms don't seem to be clearing, they just seem to be coming in. Can you give me insight on what's causing them?
This is what I will say at first. Allow yourself to cease believing if you know that you are acting upon that which excites you, if you know you are allowing yourself in this way to create the connection and be supported in and of and by the universe in that sense, then cease to believe that these so-called symptoms are something other than a reflection of what you know to be true that is supporting you. Begin by understanding that if you know you are connected in that way, and if you know everything in your life is a reflection of your connection, include the symptoms in that. You follow me?
Well, how do I get rid of them?
You do not get rid of anything. There is nowhere to get rid of anything to do. That is the whole point and the paradox. The idea is to know that if you simply have made the understanding and the decision that you are what you know to be true for you, and therefore you know that the only things that can occur in your life are positive reflections and manifestations of that knowingness, of that trust, and of that conviction, then you will never assume that anything that occurs in your life doesn't belong there, including what you may have previously judged to be negative. Understand that if you know you are an idea and something happens in your life, then you have to trust and take it for granted that by definition that thing belongs in your life and is a reflection of the positive path you are being. As soon as you accept that it is, you will allow it to transform into a reflection that will show you how it is. And thus it will not be gotten rid of, but it will be allowed to transform into a positive reflection, because you are now willing to allow everything in your life to be representative of what you know you are. You will know you cannot be interrupted. Thus you will not treat anything in your life as an interruption that needs to be gotten rid of. You will know that whatever happens is a part of the path you chose to be, and you will welcome it. And you will welcome the message it brings you, thus allowing it to transform into a positive reflection of that messenger. Only your judgment that those things don't belong in your life is what creates them to have a negative effect. Do remember, every situation is fundamentally neutral. No situation has built-in meaning. You give it meaning. And the effect you get in your life is completely a result and a product of the meaning you attach to a neutral situation. Positive meaning, positive effect. Negative meaning, negative effect. No situation brings meaning with it. They are all blank. You fill them in. If you find that the situation is creating a negative effect, that is a positive service to you to recognize that you, therefore, are judging the neutral situation to be negative. Thus, it has very lovingly given you an opportunity to recognize that you have negative beliefs within you. So, it is a positive situation, because now you have recognized you have negative beliefs. Now is an opportunity, therefore, to recognize you prefer to have positive beliefs. Therefore, you can simply trust that you now have positive beliefs, because you have been willing to see that the situation showed you had negative ones. Thus, it has a positive service. You follow me?
Yes.
Does that serve you?
Yes, it does.
Then you also relax. There is nothing outside of you, nowhere to get rid of anything to, but an infinite amount of room in which to transform anything into anything else. It will always be with you. What you have now, you will always be, but it will change into other forms of the same thing. Do not forget, everything is the same one thing, manifesting in a multitudinous, multidimensional array of simultaneous occurrences, both positive and negative. But everything is the same one thing, because the universe is only one thing. You follow me? Thank you! Pleasant dreams. Then you.
Sure. Are you personally living by all of these principles that you are reflecting to us?
Thank you. Yes.
Good. What principles are the Syrians reflecting to you?
In this way, the idea of another type of integration, another perspective of many of the same ideas, another quote-unquote level of ourselves. A recognition that we are in contact with our own future selves, in that sense, so to speak. And that interaction between these ideas is real.
Very nice. I can perceive that telepathically a lot more from an empathic viewpoint. I'm getting the feeling more than the articulation.
Okay. They are also, yet again, like any being in any civilization within creation, one more way we have of experiencing the many different ways that all that is can manifest itself within creation.
Fascinating. When they come through you, normally, if you look at the articulation of language, or as I have, you tend to get a distorted view, because from the telepathic, empathic viewpoint, I'm getting a tremendous softness. Where that softness does not exist when it comes to an incredibly rapid energy, or at least which translates into this language.
It is simply that you are experiencing their own recognition of their own infinite energy, and at the same time, the softness is the experience of their unconditional love.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
Bashar, I was pretty nervous to ask this question.
All right, then you.
Since Neomon talked, I felt a very strong connection to Orion.
Oh.
And then I felt that I had been partly responsible for creating the negativity and suppression that existed then and now.
All right.
And I've been integrating that. It's still in process, I have to say.
If you say so.
I want to know if the experience of Orion was the first experience for me
of that type of separation.
Right.
In a sense, yes.
It was.
And the lineage is, with most of you that have that type of connection, once again, Orion, Malbec, Atlantis, and now your present day.
I have another question. For about 12 years, I have felt kind of an energy on the left side of my head, kind of like prickling. Sometimes it's very intense, and in the past, I interpret it as a warning because my children would be injured, something negative happened. It isn't negative so much anymore, but it happens frequently, and it's kind of a forewarning or something.
Yes. You are sensing the energy of the probable realities that you are transforming into, and allowing yourself, before they are real-eyed in your physical reality, to make your choices consciously as to which one you prefer to have real eyes. Because they all, at that point, you get the warning, have equal potential. You follow me?
I follow you a little bit. I'm wondering how I can hone in to interpret it.
You are doing it the way you need to be doing it. That is the whole point. Do not assume you are not, for that will be the imposition of a limitation upon yourself. Simply understand that you know what you are doing, and that you change the things according to the way you need to change them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
3 years ago, I lost my son.
All right. You have not lost anything.
But anyway, he took his life rather violently.
Yes.
And I always expected to hear from him or have some sense of feeling that as he transforms, things are peaceful.
Oh, yes, but in a sense, do recognize this. The idea that you call conscious suicide usually, in 99.9% of the cases, results in immediate reincarnation. You follow me?
Yes.
Because in this way, conscious suicide is the only method open to you to attempt to negate the agreement you made. But in this way, once you are back in the state of existence where you made the agreement, you recognize that the idea of the conscious suicide is not really what you wanted to do. So you re-inject yourself into another life that will carry similar situations so that you will live through them again and learn how to take responsibility for the creation of that reality. Thus, in that way, you will find that as we experience the energy you are perceiving, it was reincarnated within the idea you call 3 weeks. The entity, as it is reincarnated, you will meet again. Not necessarily in this physiological life, but you will reunite. There may be an opportunity, according to your own decisions and choices, to function as a type of guide. Now, you are in communication when you are asleep, many times. Because now, with your own learning and your own understanding, you are assisting that individual in its stabilization of their present life that is necessary. So they are gleaning what they need from you during sleep, but they will not be conscious of it when they are awake. Because they must go through many of the same events again and take responsibility for them themselves without knowing that you are assisting them in that way. But assisting him you are when you are asleep. You have conversations. All right.
Sure.
You!
Bashar had, I guess, as long as I remember, a signal, a high pitch, like a ultrasonic violin.
Yes. Many of you will recognize that as the idea of simply tuning into the background vibration of your universal reality. You are getting in touch and receiving communication and operating on the frequency level of the mass conscious electromagnetic field of your entire civilization's mentality. You are picking up on the background signal that represents the existence of your civilization as a mass consciousness, expressed in electromagnetic terms or vibratory frequencies.
Is that what you folks tune in on to teleport or jump to this? Is that the signal you're talking about?
Oh, very good. Yes, in a sense, that is one of the patterns, the foundational pattern. Thank you.
Is that what would, in a sense, hold me in this range? Is just because I'm tuned, I got a lot of tuning to that.
Yes.
I can jump to your place by tuning to your frequency.
Yes.
Secondly, I experienced a strong regret for killing a little tiny spider that was crawling up my arm, and my only regret is I couldn't react and just crushed him.
All right.
And my regret was, darn it, I wish I could replace him. I should have done that.
It is replaced. The energy, of course, again, never ends, it only transforms. And in this way, simply, the animal was always reflecting an opportunity for you to come to terms with the ideas you are exploring. And in this way, you now will absorb this experience and add to your understanding, and you will change and be different next time. Thank you.
Sure.
You!
I wanted to talk to you for a minute, Bashar, about memory.
All right, 1 minute. After that, I may not remember what it was. If necessary. Yes, I know.
I have experiences where I slide across in memory into other facets, which I now know are facets of my multidimensional self.
Okay.
And what I was curious about is memory. I know that I use memory. I had a sense one day of being in a state of I am, and I was looking at how I use memory to fix myself. I fixed myself as this individual who my parents were, who I was as a child, what I thought, what I did, it all the way down to where I am now.
Just one way, yes.
Carol, and just
Hey.
as apart from all the other stuff I know. And so I thought, well, that's interesting, but I thought, I would like to be able to just let go of all of that, and I thought, at the time, is it possible to be in a state where we will practice memory too, like where I left my shoes back? That we need to.
But all memory is created in the present.
So what I wanted to know is, can you actually live in a space where you can let go of all of that about getting who you are and just live now with what you know now, and go from now to now?
Yes.
Do you do that in the dimension?
Yes. So in that way, the idea of quote-unquote remembering where we left shoes, to use your example, would simply be that exactly at the second we needed them, we would be exactly in the place they were.
Right.
Thus, the idea would not necessarily be experienced as memory, but as action, as congruency, as synchronicity.
Right. Sometimes I find I'm going down the road these days, and I don't even know where I'm going. Where am I going? Because I forget where I'm going.
Okay.
And I realize it's part of the transition.
Yes.
But then there's a part of me that thinks, how wonderful that God would need to remember all that and just be right.
Yes. For you will always have exactly what you need when you need it.
So it all comes to my own. So day to day.
Okay? Okay.
I like that.
Well, thank you. Then that is what you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you!
Bashar?
You!
Bashar, can you tell me basically the mechanics of a thought materializing in the physical world, how it actually takes place?
Thank you! In this way, the mechanics of a thought are the impingement of consciousness upon the vibratory frequencies you call electromagnetism. In this way, out of electromagnetism, your consciousness has created all that you imply to be what you call atomic structures. In this way, therefore, the vibratory frequencies of atomic structures and electrical impulses that travel within them and in between them are what creates the idea you call mechanical thought. You follow me?
To some degree. I'll have to listen to the tape, I know that.
All right.
Could you give me a little more amplification on that?
The idea is that you are, as a physiological reality, a fluctuating electromagnetic energy pattern. You follow me so far?
Yes.
All right. In this way, you may say it fluctuates in different energy states, more or less all within physiological reality, or as physiological reality. The consciousness that sustains this, sustains it in a way that allows it to generate, in that electromagnetic fluctuation, a certain vibratory frequency. That vibratory frequency is what you call light.
Mm-hmm.
In this way, it is also everything else that you experience as any form of electromagnetism.
Mm-hmm.
Thus you find that it is simply relative states of vibratory frequencies within one homogeneous electromagnetic energy field, relative states within that field, thereby allowing there to seem to be the illusion of the transference of information from one state to another. That is the mechanical process you call thought.
Mm-hmm.
The interaction of different states of vibratory energy within a homogeneous electromagnetic field, as sustained by your consciousness.
Well, what makes a difference in time when one thought will show up real quickly? What makes a thought... How long do you have to hold a thought for before it manifests?
There are many different manifestational rates, and all of them will hinge upon your degree of willingness to not need to create as much time. For you are creating space-time in which to experience the idea of electromechanical thought. So as an idea is what you are, and as a thought is more, let us say, closer to the idea that you actually are as a consciousness, then it will require less time for the manifestation. The closer a thought is in synchronous harmony to the idea you actually are, the quicker it manifests, because there is less need for processing.
So there's nothing... you couldn't do something mechanical like put more excitement on a thought that you really don't have to attract thoughts in that area.
If it excites you to do so, you can.
Okay.
But not generally.
So you just actually have to really be the thought then, or...
Yes. You are your reality.
Right, now if you want to convince yourself, let's say you're not being what you want.
But you are. You always are.
Right, okay, on the deepest level, but on another level,
yes.
You're not.
What you prefer.
Okay, now what would you prefer? How do you get preference into manifestation?
Do you know what you prefer? If you know what you prefer, all you need to do is recognize that because you can even conceive of what it is you prefer, then you obviously must already be on that level, because you can only conceive of the vibratory relationship that you are on the level of. When you simply take it for granted that if you can conceive of it, you already are that reality, all you have to do is act like you know you are that reality to allow your physical reality to reflect what you know to be true.
Now, that acting like, what does acting like mean in that sense?
Well, it is very simple. You do not think twice about something you own, but you worry about the things you think you need to get. If you know that something that you think you need to get is already something you own, you won't think twice about it. You will act like you own it.
Oh, I got you.
And then your physical reality will reflect that you are acting like you own it.
Oh, that's very good.
In other words, in this way, to put it quote-unquote more practically for you, if you wish, if there is something you wish to do, ask yourself, with what is available now while you are quote-unquote waiting for all the rest of it to manifest, what is available to you now to do? What would you be doing if the idea already were manifested that you are not doing now? Act that way.
Okay.
For you will find that there may be many, many, many things that you are not doing that you could be doing that will exemplify then the idea that you are being that idea. Many times you will find that, well, all right, there's this idea I want, but I will wait and wait and wait and wait until this happens or this happens before I will begin to take action upon that idea. Ask yourself, if your wish was granted and that idea did manifest in the very next second, would you be ready? Many times the answer will be no. If the answer is no, then simply recognize that that means there are things you could be doing now that are part of the idea that you are not beginning to act upon because you are waiting for something else to happen before you will act upon what portion of the idea you can act upon now. Acting upon the portion you can act upon is what will allow and create the momentum of the rest of it to manifest. So act like it is already real to you.
Okay, Bashar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. All right, you.
If a person has a disease or some sort of malady that's where there's some sort of growth of bacteria, and the person does not believe in killing, what happens? Is that person experiencing some sort of process of having to deal with having to kill in order to get rid of his own bacteria?
Perhaps. There are as many reasons for diseases as there are people that have them. In this way, do recognize that an individual can simply understand that everything is energy, and on that level they created that idea. They can simply transform it into something else without the notion of having killed anything.
Okay, so it's just the perception or the judgment.
Yes.
Okay. The other question is, I asked you last week about plants and the bugs. Is it possible that plants could symbolically take on the
in many ways, as does some of the animal kingdom, yes. Yes. For again, the vegetable, so to speak, plant, animal kingdom, mineral kingdom, are all reflections and extensions of your consciousness and all very willing to unconditionally love and serve you in whatever way will assist you. Thus they will take upon themselves many times, many ideas that will leave you able to function rather than incapacitated.
So there are various times that plants with no physiological damage or anything going on like that will, say, start drooping for no apparent reason.
And perhaps it may only be a reflection of your own lackluster energy. Or a reflection of the inability, which is lack of willingness, to transform the light into something that you can use. To believe that you can derive sustenance simply from the light of your own self-illumination. Oh, right.
How do you unconditionally?
Every way I can. In everything I do, all the time.
Is it
practice? It is living.
Well,
it is the willingness to trust that loving unconditionally is what opens the most of the universe to us. Because unconditional love then does not place a restriction on any aspect of the universe and allows us to be able to perceive any aspect we desire to.
Okay, with me, I wish, well, it does not seem to
You
so
do
many-
not believe that unconditional love works
What makes you think?
because of the questions you are asking. Because that you do not allow yourself to simply immediately understand that unconditional love is to your benefit. If you know that you, by expressing unconditional love, will then have accessibility to everything in the universe, why wouldn't you want to do it?
Okay, now, just at this point, right here,
Yes.
the fact that you judged me on that
Tis not a judgment.
Okay, that's where the difficulty that I perceive, or the judgment that I'm having here, that I'm thinking, okay, I asked the question, does it mean that should something manifest that this guy isn't unconditionally loving? I mean, because I feel like I do. Sometimes it does take some practice. I mean, in as much as you've said what you've said, that to me was your judgment and it was not true of me. Okay? But it sparked some anger within me temporarily. And what I'm questioning is that anger, that ounce of anger I had, is that unconditional? I mean, is that...
If you use it as alignment, yes. Anger is only alignment of what you know to be true for you. So we are giving you an opportunity to unconditionally love your anger and let it serve you.
Alright, well that really truly answers the questions.
Thank you. All of you, in a sense, are unconditionally loving. You create every scenario in your life, positive and negative, in a sense, in a fundamental sense, from the unconditional love of trusting that that scenario you have created is what you need. We are not saying you are not unconditionally loving. In this way, all we are reflecting to you is simply that the idea that you have that it is something you need to practice is only a part of the type of manifestations you are utilizing your unconditional love for.
So this feeling of love and beauty and the association of joy, when you get out of that realm and into, say, some type of anger or some attitude of, because of lack of a better term, hostility, that does not necessarily mean that the person is unconditionally loving it.
In this way, you may be imposing conditions upon it on one level. But the foundational reason for why you are going through the experience you are having at all stems from unconditional love, not necessarily on a conscious level. But that you simply are willing to trust that any experience you give yourself is something that you want to do. The idea is for you to also recognize that you can have physically conscious unconditional love as well. Thank you. Yay!
I'd like to make an announcement. If anybody here would like to witness the demonstration of the disc generator that we built, it will be August 2nd, Saturday morning, 8:30 in the morning. We'll meet at the carriage in Burbank, Pennsylvania. So everyone that can today, if you'd like to see the device that was channeled to us, we will be demonstrating. Meet us there at 8:30, carriage in August 2nd.
Well, you have a good time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bashar,
Yes.
are you familiar with the term Urantia?
Urantia.
Urantia.
No. To some degree.
The various governmental structures that it speaks of, are you familiar with any governmental structures on different planes that...
In a sense, however, allow me to say it is our preference to recognize that the term governmental structure is a terminology from your point of view. In this way, it is what we call the association, and it is not something that rules, it is something that serves.
Looking at it from a totally different point of view.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you!
Bashar, the Urantia, is that accurately an Earth parallel association, or is that Uranus?
No, not Uranus. Urantia.
Yeah, I know, but the planet, is it relative to Earth or Uranus?
It is relative to the entire system.
solar system.
Okay. Thank you.
Dude! I have two questions on polarity, and I'm trying to really get them straight in my mind, so bear with me. For several years, I've noticed that as I manifest in the physical universe specific ideas that I have,
Okay.
either experientially or physically, that I'll experience an extreme positive and negative aspect of that one idea.
Thanks.
For many years, I've battled that positive and negative aspect, trying to just get the positive side of the idea to manifest.
Okay.
I've kind of stopped doing that now, and I'm trying to. The question is it by viewing the idea that one is manifested and knows that one manifested that particular idea as neutral, that you can balance and don't have to have the highs and lows of it?
Understand, the only reason you have negative effect is by trying to get rid of it. You are always, while you are physical, going to have positive and negative energy.
On the same idea.
Yes, you are, by the very definition of the creation of physical reality, always going to experience the energy in polarities, but not necessarily in polarized effect, as long as you are willing to understand that negative and positive choices are equal choices, and one is not better than another, it is only different. Paradoxically, when you allow all choices to be equal, is when you have the opportunity to experience only the one you prefer. Tis that simple. Thank you! Hey.
Thank you. I'd like a clearer understanding of this concept of twin flame, one twin flame.
In this way, it can be another way to say the idea of soulmate. It can be another way to say the idea of a particular type of counterpart. It can be an offshoot soul in that sense. There are many ideas that can be used to express. In this sense, once again, do recognize that the idea is not to go searching for that idea anywhere other than within yourself. Then is when you will create yourself to be the type of individual that radiates being complete in that way, containing both sides of the twin flame, and thus attract other individuals that will reflect to you their containment of their own completeness and twin flame identities.
Thank you.
Thank you!
Bashar?
Yes!
I was daydreaming the other day, and I remembered that about 2 years ago, I was in the desert, and I was really in a state of bliss, and I looked up in the sky, and I saw what I guess now was a spaceship. And it was looking at me, and it was kind of intense, and so I started to look at it, and I was a little frightened. But I said, well, if you want to look at me, I want to look at you. And it opened a shutter, and it started to kind of zoom in on me like a zoom lens. And for a while, I kind of looked back, and that was that, and I never really thought about it. About a year later, a friend of mine who lives in Palm Springs brought me to see you. Was that an Amphictonian ship?
Define and describe.
Well, it was kind of, it's a long time ago, and it wasn't that important. So it was metal. I don't really remember the shape. What I really remember was the shutter opening, the look of the shutter.
Do you remember the idea of what you would call a light in the red spectrum? Or was it more in the blue spectrum?
The ship looked bluish-gray, but there was a red light. The metal was bluish-gray, but there was a feeling of red light, like Mars looks red.
In your terms, was it more angular than disk?
I think it was more angular.
One moment. What are your own feelings of connection to what you call the Palm Springs area?
I love it there. It's peaceful, it's beautiful. It's a place of serenity for me.
What significance for you does it have that you were alerted by a friend that also is related to that area?
Joy.
Why?
Well, because I think your people are so beautiful. It's nice to connect with you.
And you?
Thank you.
One moment. In our perception, what we have here is an unusual composite. An idea to some degree connected to our frequency, but also connected to the idea of a past self.
I don't understand this.
One moment. Yes. Space-time crossover. Let it say, an ancient version of the energy that we became. As we formed an agreement and a connection with your civilization for the specific interactions that are taking place now. I do not mean to be mysterious about this, but in this way you have given yourself a quite fascinating quasi-planar experience.
I believe that.
In this sense, it is, simply put, once again, a composite of different energies that represented themselves to you in a way that made symbolic sense. The idea of the craft was more what you call diamond-shaped. The idea of the red vibration and identification of the agreement with your physiological reality and your choice of being present and incarnate upon the planet you find yourself to be on now. The blue-gray, a reflection of other lives, other systems, other time tracks, and a familiarity with a type of crystalline technology, metallic technology, that you may find some fascination with in this life as you begin to explore your own sciences. How do you feel about metal?
I don't have a lot of feelings at the moment about metal. I like metal. I got it from the
What do you feel about the idea of crystalline metals?
Well, when you ask me now that I reflect, they feel very futuristic to me.
Can you feel them?
Sure.
Does it seem familiar?
Very.
Place your hand on an imaginary piece right now. What size, what shape, what color, and how does it feel?
Well, I'm feeling a piece of something that feels very, very large, bigger than the room.
Yes.
And, oh yeah, now I remember what I saw. There was all this light. There was all this sort of laser beamy light.
All right, very good. Can you understand an energy interaction between the crystalline metal and the light? In what way?
Well, it seems to help contain it only.
All right.
But it's charged as well so that the metal can move and it can use the density of the light for speed and travel. Is that right?
Very good. You do remember.
No, I don't.
Light is the motive force of all the craft, and it is transformed by those grayish metallic crystalline cubes, in a sense, into the energy that is utilized for the transformation from place to place and time to time.
Yeah, I see that though.
Continue to explore in your imagination. There may be a few things you will need to write down.
Yeah, I feel I should share some of them.
All right.
When I first came to see you that evening with my friends, just as you were all leaving, I saw from your forehead come the same kind of light as if you were looking at all of us with a third eye or something really very magnificent. But I really felt thousands of people looking at us through light.
There are.
Are you all there?
In a sense. Each and every one of us that interacts with you is the eyes of many more.
Yeah, it felt wonderful.
I think so. You may all take a short break. Hey, the title for tonight is Simplicity Itself.
What's that?
Simplicity Itself.
Good! Is there such a thing as holographic thinking?
All holographic thinking is, in this way, all you experience. Everything The entire universe and everything in it is holographic.
So a particular body of data is not a proper thing to say you perceive something holographically.
You can.
Is that different from linear?
In a sense, yes. It is simply the recognition of the interconnectedness of everything and the willingness to perceive the thought forms as multi-dimensionally transformational as opposed to experience them in the idea you call linear evolution.
Does that, is there an advantage in that type of thinking as opposed to disadvantage as it relates to linear?
There is simply the effect of allowing yourself to know you are connected to far more sources than you may be allowing yourself to realize with a linear thought.
I tend to feel like I think holographic as opposed to linear. And I also tend to, my judgment is that it's oftentimes there is a lot of confusion. I can feel what's being said, and I get the picture, but I need to give that out linearly in a way that it's...
But that is why we say it does not have to be translated analytically. If you simply act upon the instinct, upon the feeling, then you will be allowing your physical reality to manifest whatever reflection it needs to of that idea. You don't have to have a linear equation for it. Doing it is the saying of it.
Except that the agreement of others, usually which is linear, tends to, I have conflict with that.
Why? That is only more self-driven. But it is only self-driven. You are simply not allowing yourself to be valid as you express yourself. You are thinking that you have to live up to someone else's expectation of the way you should act.
But I notice even as we speak, oftentimes throughout the years or whatever, how long we've conversed here, there are... you give me this hand motion to sort of get me where I'm going.
All right.
Why did you do that? It's for my own affairs. Why do you do that? Does that reflect in my thinking, or
it gives you something to bounce off of?
Are you serious?
Yes. And that is simply, we recognize within you the continuation of a creation of a type of pattern that requires that type of series of responses. You are always a surprise. We never form any expectations of any of you. You are never the same you in the next moment anyway.
Well, question.
One more. All right. You, then you.
I've been having a lot of realizations in this particular area, and I would like to share it with you so you can get a little reflection on it. I find that at times I will deny myself expression of preferences based on the consideration that someone else will create suffering for themselves or loss if I go ahead and simply look.
Then that is your preference.
Very nice. That answered that one.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
I want to ask.
Oh, Anne.
Someone needs to wake up and I always admired them. They were very nice. One of the bugs that I think people
Yeah.
I don't feel similar words.
I see. Do you not enjoy plants?
Oh, yes.
Well then, why not enjoy what the worms do for the plants?
Oh, it's fine.
Well, thank you. Has that have been of assistance?
Yeah, but I still want to know my needs.
What about them?
Well, it's not like I don't want them in my kitchen.
All right.
So I told them, well, you better go out because you get a dinner in my kitchen. And if you keep getting in my kitchen, I'm going to kill you.
Oh. May I ask you a question?
Yeah?
Why can they not live in your kitchen?
Well, because they get into everything. There's the sink, there's
Yes.
the food, there's
Yes.
everywhere.
Yes.
Like to eat them, they drink that, all that.
Oh.
Then they crawl over you and they get them.
You do not like to be tickled?
Not my answer.
So, anyway, what happened is, I thought maybe I realized I thought they were very bold to just come in my kitchen and take over everything. I thought maybe there was a message to me to this person that should be bold doing what I want to do.
All right, that can be one symbolic reflection. Anything else?
Well, that's how I got there, and I thought, please, hands, I got it, and I can go home.
What about the unity of all their parts functioning as one? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Well, didn't go away.
Well, perhaps you haven't gotten the message yet.
But then I started to kill it again. Driving there.
What portions of yourself are you thus doing the same things to?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, well, do not try too hard.
Yeah, right.
Can you make a home for them within your home?
That's a whole variety.
Then why not design it so that they will want to stay there? Give them what they require in the place you wish them to stay.
A lot of abundance over there, so they won't.
Yes! Thank you.
Bashar?
One moment.
Thank you. I have a question regarding to my
Feeding!
Yes.
Sustenance. All right.
I have a question about what I should eat because I don't really feel like eating at all,
All right, and don't.
and I haven't been.
All right. How do you feel?
I feel fine.
End of conversation.
But I want a further explanation.
Further fineness?
Further what?
Further fineness?
Fineness?
You said you feel fine.
Further fineness. A better scope of understanding why people say to me, you better eat, you haven't eaten, you better eat.
Simply in this way, they may not understand that you can sustain yourself upon the energy alone.
Okay. I just have an answer.
Now you do. Recognize in this way, you will regulate your system as you know you are. Becoming more and more energetic, you will sustain yourself more and more on the energy that you channel through you, and less upon the physiological symbols that are represented by what you call food. You will know when to eat, and you will know what to eat.
Very, very good. Exactly. Now, in relation to the transition, how could I clarify this more? Like, is this like a fourth or fifth or sixth density, or what is it that I'm doing that?
It is a fourth density system. Sustenance off the direct energy of your actions. Your own momentum sustains you. And you create a higher vibratory frequency that even when you require the symbolic sustenance you call food, will manifest itself only in an urge for something that you consider to be a lighter variety of food. As long as you know, and as long as you feel that you are in that way balanced and energetic, why worry about it?
I'm not worried about it.
All right.
It's just that I'd like to share this knowledge or why this is possible and why it's okay and why it's positive.
Ah, then go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. Mayo.
Yeah. Bashar, sometimes in social situations,
social situation.
Yeah, I get a little uncomfortable if I'm supposed to show up a certain way. Like, in other words, I know I'm creating it, but maybe you can give me some insight on it. I have a feeling that people expect me to be a certain way, or I have to show up a certain way for them to approve me.
All right.
And I know that level of conversation is going on, even though it's not verbal. and yet I want to be true to myself.
All right.
And it gets a little awkward. And
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying this is the case, but simply allow me to ask you so that you can explore this possibility. Are you sure that you are not doing what you are doing more for the idea of simply being reactive than simply acting upon what you truly would like to do that represents you?
I'm not sure I got that.
In other words, are you going the other direction out of spite and thinking that that is truly how you actually feel like being, or are you truly actually being like you feel like being? Many times you will find that because you surround yourself with this opportunity of others to judge you in that way, and because you want to be true to yourself sometimes, you will go overboard the other direction in that sense and actually form a reaction to them rather than actually being true to yourself, when you may realize that many times the ideas that they seem to prefer you to be are actually congruent and in synchronous harmony with some of the ideas you would actually prefer to be, but that you will stubbornly not be just because you wish to be spiteful to them.
Well, not on a conscious level. It might be going on because I judge people and then I set myself up to be judged. I mean, on some level.
Very good.
But I had a situation with a friend of mine where I decided that I wanted to be truthful with him because I was suppressing my reality because... And we both spoke our truth. I spoke my truth, and he spoke his truth. And I didn't believe it was his truth. But he was telling me it was his truth, and we had a disagreement. And it really screwed me up. I didn't know what you do when two people speak their truth, but there's a disagreement there. How is it resolved? Or
you respect each other's truths and go on.
And it just hangs up. So then there is no it doesn't get resolved.
There is a resolution. You continue your relationship based upon the new definition of your respective truths.
Right. Oh, okay. So I was holding on to that. You had a winner. You had to have a resolution where someone kind of knew how it would resolve. So you don't have to. You can just write your own rules.
All unity is formed from the granting of validity and equality within the infinite diversity of splendid.
So it seemed like I was trying to push on where there was an ultimate right reality, and there isn't.
Correct. The truth is composed of all truths. There is no one background against which to measure the validity of any other reality.
Okay. And I just had one other question in this area. It's similar. It's a little different, but it turned on today. Sometimes if I have to be put on the spot, let's say, or perform, or public speak, or be seen, my mind will go blank, or I'll feel terror, or I'll forget where I'm at.
Okay. Well, it is not uncommon in your society.
Yes. What is the mechanism that triggered there?
Same thing you are already talking about: fear of being judged for what you are.
Is there a way that can be resolved by you doing something about your own judgment, so thus you feel more comfortable?
You can look at it in whatever way your imagination allows you to feel comfortable. Do recognize that there are many different perspectives that you can have in that sense. First of all, realize that if they do wish you to perform that service, then obviously they think you must have something worth sharing. So you may take it for granted in that way that you are simply respecting their request to share of the particular facet that you are. Know that no matter what their action and or reaction, each and every one of those people is getting out of it what they have chosen to get out of it. Period. Whatever the interaction, they are there by choice, and so are you. So you do not have to feel responsible for their reactions. You do not have to live up to expectations. All you need to do is to be true and responsible to you and to them by being who you are. You do not have to be responsible for them. You are being responsible to them by being who you are.
Now, if they don't know that reality and they hold me guilty or I perceive their guilt...
If you decide to accept their judgment of you by judging yourself, that is your choice.
Okay. That's good.
As long as you know you are functioning within your integrity, someone else's reaction or feelings are not your responsibility. They got out of it or didn't what they wanted to.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
My dear.
Jane.
I came to Los Angeles with a personal problem.
A what?
It's a personal problem.
A personal what?
situation.
Oh.
Thank you for the clarification.
A problem is a situation you will not allow to change its shape.
That should be the answer. I came to...
It is that simple if you wish it to be.
I came to Los Angeles 2 years ago for a job, and the job is I'm no longer at that job.
All right.
And I've been trying for 2 years to leave Los Angeles.
Trying to leave.
I feel lost in every way, and I don't know...
Do you have feet?
Yes.
What is it
I don't know.
that you think stops you?
The only thing I could come across is that maybe I'm supposed to be here for some reason.
All right, perhaps.
And I can't get any...
What excites you in life? What do you want to do?
There's confusion.
Compute. All right. Nothing negative about that. You are examining all your probabilities. You are co-fusing. At this moment, when we ask you what excites you the most, we are not necessarily asking you to define the idea that would excite you with the span of your entire lifetime. What excites you the most right now that is available for you to act upon? Anything at all?
Yes. Land, nature, quietness, rural.
Then why aren't you there?
I don't know.
Then there isn't any reason. Trust that what excites you is the path you can walk most easily. Act upon it. And you will always attract to yourself other situations that represent the same degree of excitement. Who knows who you will meet in that course? You follow me?
Your reasoning is right to me, and I've said that to myself, but I just don't, I seem to be very bewildered about it. I seem to be frightened of going out of whatever it is I feel stuck, and not being able to make that crossing.
That is only because you believe there is some great crossing to make, and there isn't. It is an illusion. There is no great crossing. Do what you want to do. Do what moves you. Do what excites you. Then you will have crossed. You are constantly crossing. There is no great crossing. You follow me? What do you imagine this great crossing would be?
I don't know, maybe coming to Los Angeles is so difficult that I guess I'm just scared to go out because
right. But you are not the same you now that you were when you came. So nothing of the you were then applies to the you are now. Nothing. The present is not a result of the past. Every moment is unique and always its own now. Any continuity or connection that you create from any so-called past to the present is your choice of illusion. The present is not a result of the past. Now is now. Whoever you know yourself to be now, that is the only reality you will experience. For it is the only you that there is for the universe to support. The you are now. Not the you were then. That is no longer you. Just that is history.
I think the other thing is the unknown of not knowing any...
understand that you create your entire reality, and everything you discover, if you are willing to treat it as fundamentally neutral, will be familiar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar.
You!
Me?
You.
I don't have really a question.
That is all right. You do not need a question to communicate with us.
I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude that you are sharing your intelligence with us.
Well, we extend our appreciation and your willingness in this way to share with us your manifestation of your unique expression of all that is, so that we may also co-create learning, teaching, and sharing with you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your beauty.
Thank you. I was kind of hesitant in expressing it because I'm not sure whether you know about it, even if we don't say it, if you sense it. But
in an overall sense, we do.
But
the idea of your willingness to express it in the way that represents your mode of communication means you put conviction behind it, and thus you put it into the general pool that all can truly draw from consciously. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bashar.
You!
Several months ago, my rings and my watch, which I had worn for years, suddenly felt strange on my body. I took them off, and I've been very comfortable without them. Once in a while I put my watch on because I like to know it.
I know.
Kind of a fun habit. And I believe it has something to do with the electromagnetic changes in the electromagnetic field of my body.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could explain...
And also not needing to be so connected to time.
Okay, well, yeah, specifically for the watch, although I wasn't able to tell time with my rings.
Why not?
I haven't learned how to, you know? So, can you explain to me why, or what...
Well, yes, in that way, as you have already recognized that certain electromagnetic shifts many times will create, because of the mass consciousness belief system, the idea that the wearing of certain materials can cause some of those energies to, in a sense, short circuit. So you will notice in that way that is why there is the removal of all such material from the physiological channel.
I see. Now what, obviously removing these things allows the short circuit to become unshort-circuited.
Yes.
What then happens to the energy? How does it flow then?
You simply complete your own circuit.
Okay.
Rather than having it go through fluctuations.
Oh, okay. In a related matter, I heard that wearing leather on the feet, such as shoes or a leather belt, is equivalent to wearing death, since it's a dead animal. I'm wondering what your viewpoint or comment on that would be.
Simply, once again, that any archetypal symbology that you choose to create within your mentality will have a degree of relevance according to the idea of your perception of the energy and or the reason for the existence of that artifact to begin with as it relates to your belief system. In this way, therefore, it may affect you that way. And in this way, also, as you allow yourself to get into touch with that notion, you will also realize that you will probably not necessarily want to have or create the manufacture of such an artifact.
True. Howsoever, could it not be so that you could just...
Yes, it could be so by simply allowing yourself to know that the energy also in that way is available for you to be transformed in ways that can assist you, until such time as you feel comfortable in making a change yourself.
Are we talking about the same thing?
Proceed.
I'm not sure I asked my question.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking that you could still wear a leather artifact.
That is what I said.
And not have the
yes.
quote negative. Okay.
By allowing yourself to know that it is knows on its behalf, its consciousness knows it is part and parcel of the transformation you are making, thus simply allow it to serve you in that way until such time as we have said that you feel comfortable in changing it for yourself.
But then I would think that you wouldn't need to make the change.
It may simply happen automatically.
Okay. Well, if it does change, if it happens automatically, however it changes, that seems to be an indication that there's validity to this idea that the dead animal skin creates a negative whatever.
Within the belief structure of your society, to some degree, yes.
Okay. Now this relates to the sunburn question that I asked you weeks ago. It seems to me you could change that for yourself, or perhaps do a little switching and help the mass consciousness change the idea that dead animal skins would create that negative effect.
Yes, but once again, the idea is that it is a paradox. And once you allow yourself to integrate with that idea as being all right, then you simply find that as you accelerate on, different ideas that represent different levels of energy will simply take their place. Not so much that it has a negative connotation, but it does represent certain ideas. Thus, in this way, you will simply find a different representation.
Such that the different representation doesn't really mean that you've been experiencing negative effects.
Correct. It simply is a reflection of a different idea altogether. In other words, perhaps the creation of clothing that does not require a belt.
Yeah. Suspenders. Leather suspenders. I have another question.
All right.
Actually, this is a sharing. I've been delighted recently to see in media indications that the mass consciousness is making various changes. In the scientific community, apparently one fellow has come up with the theory of a morphogenic field, which is a real fancy term for the idea of some kind of electromagnetic connection between all beings, such that if a given group of people have learned something, then somebody else who has not learned that has an easier time of learning it simply because they're connected with this.
It becomes more and more probable within the mass consciousness belief structure.
Yeah. And I was also delighted to see a motion picture called Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which, if anybody hasn't seen it, is fantastic because it does express the idea that life works if you let it.
All right.
It's a real fun message.
Thank you!
Bashar? Yes, Bashar. I just have a question on cocaine. And what it is, basically, what does it do to the body and its popularity? You know, I don't know.
In this way, you will find once again that any idea of a physiological tool is only a tool. And when individuals in this way recognize that the power is within them, and they do not need to put the power in some tool outside themselves, then they will simply find themselves of a vibration that does not require the idea of the reliance upon the tool in order to gain a sense of self-empowerment. For in this way, the idea of a particular expression in relying and shifting responsibility onto a tool rather than simply taking it for granted the tool is there to show you that you have self-empowerment and that you yourself can recreate the idea you think you are getting from the tool that you are actually creating yourself. Then in that way you will find that because it deals specifically with the idea of raw power, raw self-empowerment, that as you keep relying upon the tool to give you the empowerment, then that much raw power will cause burnout of all of the systems. You follow me?
Well, yes. When it comes to the actual burnout, this possibility, what degrees or what type of time period, it would just vary with different people?
Yes, to some degree. There seems to be a generalized mass consciousness reaction approximating the idea of a turnaround time of what you would call 3 months.
3 months of usage would create this burnout.
Or create the idea of an acceleration towards the burnout that is not reversible.
There is that idea that it's not reversible.
That creates the idea in your mass consciousness as you have agreed to abide by what you call the physiological laws of chemistry. You can always circumvent that. All we are saying is that we perceive in your mass conscious mentality, it is at this time still unlikely. That if an individual has taken themselves to that point, they will generally, with rare exceptions, experience it all the way.
This all the way concept of a burnout.
Yes.
Could you describe that?
Neuronic sheathing breakdown. Enzymatic dysfunction. Inhibition of nitrogen and oxygen carrying components. Dysfunction of many of the ideas of organs within you that find their job to be filtering what you would call toxins. Therefore, the dumping of extra toxins into your system, which accelerates the burnout. Electromagnetic disorientation. Motor response dysfunction, based upon the breakdown of the neuronic sheathing, and the depletion of what you would call mineral and chemical constituents within the body. Impairment of the idea of the delivery systems of what you would call the substance lecithin into the brain cell structure, breakdown of the sheathing of the brain, and all such ideas that you would call lubricating membranes. In a sense, therefore, you become an exposed and raw nerve ending.
In those cases that this has occurred with, you say there's no turnaround, or I would say anything's
The idea, as we have said, is that anything is changeable in that way.
Mm-hmm.
All we are saying is that as we experience the energy of your mass consciousness, individuals who take themselves usually to that point will usually take themselves all the way to a burnout.
I see. That is their experience, their choice.
Yes. Now, burnout is different for different individuals in terms of the level they can tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
But it will all be related similarly to that idea.
I see. In respect to the various people that this has occurred to or is on its way, I'm just trying to look at a way that this can be understood or shared.
Simply known in that way that all they are doing is substituting the recognition that they are the ones that are self-empowered to create the reality as they so desire and do not need to rely on an externalized symbol for the creation of that sense of power.
Mm-hmm. So basically, like myself or others who choose to, you would be that example of your own self-empowerment.
Be a reflection in whatever situations you attract yourself within, in which you can be a reflection without being a reflection in judgment or accusation.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you!
Is marijuana different than cocaine as far as burnout?
There will be many differences with any different symbol. In this way, you are also dealing with the idea of what you would call depletion of the oxygenation of your system with that substance.
So what is the physical effects or mental effects of that?
Deterioration of the cellular structure, of drying out in general. Deprival of oxygen to the brain as well, and the cessation of thought, rationalization functions in time.
Okay. What about ecstasy?
Blood chemical alterations to some extent. Some ideas inherent in what you call the liver. Possible that it will transfer over also to the area you call the kidneys. It may not be immediately felt in this way, but once again, understand that any such idea is giving you an effect, but it is not creating the effect. You are creating the effect, and it is only there as a tool to show you what effect you can create in your reality. Once you know it is possible, you can create it without the drug. Mm-hmm. The continued reliance on the drug is not allowing yourself to manifest your own self-empowerment with the creation of the effect, and simply assuming that the responsibility must be placed on something outside you in order to achieve that degree of connection. Any idea, in a sense, that is relied upon as an externalized self-empowerment will always eventually come up with some sort of what you call side effect. Because you are placing the power to the side of yourself and not within you. So you will get a side effect reaction that will allow you to perceive where you require the centering and in what ways.
Where do you require the centering?
Yes, in what areas of your consciousness.
So the side effect reflects what? That's a part of your body, and that is a part that's imbalanced or...
That carries the symbolic interpretation of many of the areas that allow you to generate the lack of self-empowerment to begin with that particular methodology.
Could you please give me an example?
In this way, you may find that if you have the idea of what essentially in your body is a filter being effective, then it is a notation symbolically, in plain terms, by analogy, that the idea is you are filtering out portions of yourself that you are not willing to look at. That is a simple analogy, but it will do. Sure!
Bashar.
You!
Your spaceship, I'm wondering, does it live, does it relate to you in the form of thought?
In a sense, yes. The mind of the pilot is connected to the mind of the ship.
Now, in its construction or its molecular density,
Yes.
Is it composed of metal or...
It is more of a crystalline metallic form that is grown, in a sense.
Have you dealt with magnetic drive at any point? Or are you dealing with
There are some fluctuations of electromagnetism within some of the ideas you would call thrive, but it is not purely exactly the idea you would call electromagnetic. It is more the idea of gravitational dynamic tensor fields.
Now, in that you said that the mind of the pilot is connected with the control mechanism of the ship.
Right.
Could you give me an example of, say, plotting from one system to another system, how the pilot would take this?
In this way, there is the creation of what is called the isolation field round and about the craft, which isolates that field from any one particular universe, thus opening up its navigational banks to all probable universes, which are represented by their signature frequency vibrations. The pilot, being intuitive in that way and simply tapping into the internal imagination dimension, picks the frequency that is desired by the pilot, and thus this is imparted to the navigational spectrum of the ship, which then simply imbues the entire ship with that vibrational frequency, and thus when the isolation field is removed, the ship by definition must take up residence within the universe that represents the vibrational frequency.
Oh, thank you very much. You just set me free on some thoughts.
Recognize that we simply understand that an object does not exist within time and space, but that space-time are properties of the object and can be changed.
Okay, thank you. You told me how to change.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Right.
My husband wanted to know why it is his body experiences motion sickness and what he can do about it.
Perhaps he is moving faster than he needs to. Perhaps he thinks he must rush to get somewhere. Perhaps it is also a carryover to some degree in a belief of a connection of what you would call a past life. Although we perceive that a large percentage of it are simply belief systems that he bought into in his childhood, and experiences that he allowed himself to relate to that would always create an assurance that he would never move faster than he thought was comfortable. You follow me?
Yeah.
But it is the product of a self-judgment, and so it can manifest in negative ways in that sense. Once he comes to the understanding that it is not possible for you to move faster than you need to, then he may lose the idea of the need for motion sickness to restrict himself. You follow me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have another question.
Dave.
What can we do as individuals to increase our own ability to communicate telepathically?
Love. Understand that the idea of telepathy, while it is an activation of an electromagnetic mental system, is activated by emotion. To love someone is to know them. It is empathy. You follow me?
Yes.
That is why you recognize that individuals that you call being in love quite often know each other's thoughts.
True.
Because they are identifying with each other in the same frequency. Then you are telepathic. Understand in this way, it is not exactly the idea of a transference of information from mind to mind. It is the copying of a pattern that allows you to translate the energy in the same way for you as it is translated for the other person. Thus, you have the same thoughts simultaneously, but they are each your own creation at the same time, because you identify with each other on the same wavelength. So you translate the experiences in the same manner and seem to be sharing each other's thoughts. All you are doing is creating your own thoughts and channeling them in the same way the other person is, because you are on the same frequency.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question.
All right.
Very quickly. I keep hearing references made to third, fourth, and fifth density, and I really have no idea what that means.
All right. It is very simple in this way. The idea of your physical reality is now in third, you are going to fourth. It is simply a recognition that third density carries within the definition that you are in a seemingly objective universe, that it seems to be outside you. It is a point of view. Fourth density is the point of view that the universe is your creation. You begin to see through the illusions and begin to cease to create so many separations and cease to create as much creation of space-time. So things accelerate. You see through the illusions and know you are creating your reality and integrate all the different portions of yourself into one knowing you. You follow me?
Yes.
How you?
Bashar,
Yes.
in that transferring from one system to another system,
Yes.
if I were, as a pilot here,
Okay.
wanted to transfer from this system to your system,
Yes.
what would I feed into my computer in the form of thought or ideas or concepts?
The feeling that you have of us. That is the vibration.
Okay.
How you would recognize us is the vibration.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You can always key off of any single individual, such as myself, since my vibration is of my system.
So, in using one question, in using that vibration to key off of any particular person in any particular system, then I could easily go from system to system just by signaling in on that particular entity?
Yes.
Oh,
It is like the tuning of the idea of your radio. You simply get what you switch the dial to.
I've been running up and down the dial there.
Now, do understand that this is what you do when you are out of your body in your sleep state anyway. You become the vibration, and there you are instantaneously.
Okay.
The spacecraft is only an extension of the consciousness that represents the same idea in physiological symbolic terms. But it is still only an extension of the consciousness.
Yeah, I was aware of that, but I didn't know how to construct one or how I would deal with traveling.
Oh. Well, if you create the idea also of the so-called self-aware mentality or consciousness of the spacecraft, then the spacecraft can also tell you how.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Recognize that when your civilization, as we have said, creates the idea that you call your artificially intelligent computers, all you will be doing is having created a symbolic reference that will allow you to be comfortable in speaking to your own higher consciousness. That is what is infused in the awareness of the ship.
So that the ship becomes an extension or a living entity of your mind and of you, and its directions are formed based on what you feed into your mind and subsequently into it?
Exactly.
Oh.
It is completely and totally keyed to your vibration. And thus responsive to it. And only to you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yay.
What is, can you address the subject of expectation?
Many times it is only another form of judgment. The placing of a rigidized structure on something, the saying that it has to happen this way or it will not be valid, therefore it may not happen at all.
So it's like a form of prejudgment?
Yes. But recognize in this way simply that when you have something that excites you and you form a visualization or some sort of a symbolic interpretation of that idea, you do not need to have it manifest exactly as you have visualized it to get the same effect. Even though, paradoxically, many times, when you allow it to manifest in whatever way it can manifest, many times you will find that you are accurate, quote-unquote accurate, and it will manifest exactly as you have pictured it. But it does not have to. Expectation is saying it has to, thus closing all the other doors through which it may have manifested more easily than you were able to actually visualize it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes! Then you.
Question of curiosity. President Kennedy, when he was shot, could you tell me a little about what happened there? Who did it, or what was, a little about the man, or any information or insight in that?
The individual, this we can share, the individual that your society generally credits with that action never fired a shot. There were two others.
It wasn't Oswald, though.
No, though he was connected.
What was Ruby's connection?
To silence Oswald.
Why is the information suppressed?
You live in your society and you can ask that question. In this way, recognize simply that the idea of the individuals who desired the death of that individual would be many of what you would call the institutions that you hold to be sacrosanct.
Sacrosanct?
Is that like the religions, or...?
Simply some of the ideas you would call connections within what you call government and or corporate structures.
Well, wasn't Johnson responsible? I mean,
we are not here in this way to pinpoint specifics in that sense.
Well, since I'm here, I could say that, can I?
Each and every individual in your society is responsible for having created a type of atmosphere in which you would allow such a thing to occur.
Why not want his death?
In this way, you will find that certain ideas within that individual were contradictory to their own plan.
Which ideas?
Unification of certain structures that would allow there to be the cessation of what you call profits.
Which structure?
End of conversation.
Thank you.
Sean?
Hey! Over here.
Thank you. First of all, on the way here last Wednesday, I thought, how neat it would be to have a nickname since I never have received one. And you gave me one last week, and I have to thank you for that, number one.
Well, thank you, Butterfly.
Yes, I do. And number two, also, over 2 months...
By the way! Have you met Strawberry?
Many times.
All right. Continue.
How to get along, let's see. All right, also, over 2 months ago, you had mentioned Pleiades and researching and so forth, and then you brought it up again about a month ago. And if I had researched the physiological landing of a spaceship in Switzerland, and I still hadn't got too much on it, you gave me a lead, which turned out rather very interesting. And it's only taken me about 2.5 months to coordinate on what you were getting at. That's when it did occur, everything started aligning very interestingly.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And just one other aspect of it, on reading it, I'm amazed over the transaction with Billy Meyer, etc., and all of the things that occurred during it. And I can't stop the tears. Now, I have no reality.
You are releasing, you are centering, you are remembering certain connections.
But I am?
Yes.
It's happening. I'm looking at it saying, okay, what is it I've forgotten about and so forth, and I've not been able to... it's not like a bad crying, especially. It's just sort of a world.
We understand.
And...
Can it be equated to the idea of homesickness?
Oh, boy, here we go.
Did I strike a chord?
Yeah. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep flying.
Lighten up, right?
Go flying.
Okay.
Yes.
I was in Dallas that day and saw John Kennedy about 3 minutes before he got shot. I was downtown, living there, working in that town. Interesting synchronicities. I finished my work, and synchronicity as it would have it, I'd taken the bus downtown instead of driving my car. And I'm walking up the street where he last drove, or was being driven. And I had the awareness of having, I actually had to lean forward to walk down that street. The attention of the world and whatever other dimensions were focused so strong.
Oh, do recognize the multiple overlappings, and in this way, this is why we will not finger blame in this sense, but you will find that the idea is, as your entire civilization's consciousness so ordained the creation of the passage of that gate in that way, and recognize the overlapping of the vibrational symbology of your 1122.
1122. Right. That was the day that happened.
2 power numbers in your numerological symbology. 2 master transformations.
What was it? What was it that I was leaning into? Was it energy as
The
such?
vortex of the consciousness, in a sense, yes, becoming more solid because of the focused concentration.
It was as if I was leaning into a hurricane. I actually had to lean forward to walk up the street. Yeah.
Thought has energy.
Well, I could feel the whole planet because he was such a focal point.
Oh, yes. Twice. 4 years.
Same guy.
Wow.
Hence the 11 and then the 22. The beginning and the completion of a gate.
How did that serve us?
Wonderful.
Allow you, once again, in many different ways, to bring to the surface things that were formerly hidden. To begin to explore and experience the idea of taking responsibility and being your governments in this way, and not needing the idea of victimhood and or what you call martyrdom in your society any longer.
Bashar,
Yes.
on your spacecraft, the communications equipment with these different solar systems that you travel into, are you capable of communicating with them individually, or is it on a mind level?
It will depend. There may be interactions that will take place individually in that way and require certain specifications, and the primary contact, depending upon the state of existence of the civilization, can also be mental in this way, usually at first through what you would call dream communication.
Are there any defenses or protections you can set up in the event you move into a system that you'll find is totally harmonious with your thinking?
The recognition of our vibration in that way as the reality we are will never find us in such a system.
Oh, okay.
You can only exist in a reality of which you are the same frequency, in general. Thus, it is already within us that any idea that represents disharmony will, in a sense, not be available in all the probable navigational routes.
Too different the vibration?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Bashar?
Of course, we
You!
A week ago, experience said to me that was really a strong feeling to me.
Hey.
And I was wondering why I choose this for myself.
Define and describe.
What happened?
Hey.
There was a boy, and he was swimming, and he fell, and his arm was in a way dislocated.
Yes.
And in a way, it scared me, and it made me have this emotion that
Yes.
I didn't know how to take.
You are still bringing up within you many connections to many past lives, and in this way allowing other individuals to reflect to you those portions of yourself that you are now allowing to come to the surface of your consciousness so that you can deal with them and integrate them. It represented to some degree an emotional reaction to a situation in a past life in which you became disassociated from something that you loved. Thus, you allow the experience of another type of dislocation to bring that same emotion back up in you so that you could reassociate it and know that in this life you will never experience the idea of disconnection and or loss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar.
Bashar?
Bashar.
Yes.
I had an experience that I would like to share with everyone. That you had said several times, weeks ago, to create a mental image picture of a dolphin. So my family went to the beach, and I said, I'm going to try this. And I we went to Zuma Beach above Malibu, and I made a mental image picture of a dolphin, and I flowed love to it. And then I forgot about it. And my kids are in the water, and about 20 minutes later, 8 dolphins.
An octave.
And I was so excited. And I enjoyed that. It was a wonderful experience.
Hey.
Thank you.
Me.
I just was creating that picture and sending love to it.
Ah.
So,
Thank you. There will be a few moments remaining for this interaction this evening of your time.
Bashar.
You.
Back to this craft and the directions of it again. Would it be better to let your higher self navigate in realms that you are not familiar with?
By the time you find yourself constructing such a craft, you will be blended as your higher self. You will know what you are doing.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Bashar.
You!
My teacher, my master, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, is not allowed into any country, to stay in any country. Can you say something about the politics of it?
This is all that we can say at this time. You are your own master now. Act like it. So recognize that the idea of any master, the first thing any master will tell you is that you are your own master. Allow yourself to recognize this is an opportunity for you to know that you chose your reflections, you chose your circumstances, and you chose your situation so that you would enforce your own weaning in that way. And take your power and exercise your own self-empowerment. Be your own master crystal, your own master tone. Share in love and light what you know to be true for you.
Yeah, that seems to be what's happening right on. But I still would like to know where he is, because just to...
We cannot share that idea at this time. We do not mean to be mysterious. But at this point, the idea of the specific labeling of that notation will not be of best service to all concerned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar.
You.
I have 2 people that I've been thinking about for a long time. One of them is still in this world, and one of them is left. And I'd like to know why I keep thinking about them, what lives I've shared with them.
Oh, perhaps many. In this way, the idea many times of what you call the continuation of thinking about them is your subconscious awareness of communication that is going on between you.
One of them I've had dream sequences with.
Yes,
where we,
communication.
Right, but that ended at a certain point.
It has only transformed.
Once. Right.
Understand in this way there is no need to go longing. The idea of whatever energy is shared up to that point, and then a change that occurs, is your opportunity to use all of the energy and all you have communicated and all you have learned and act your life through, and not continue to look elsewhere for the support that you can give yourself. Any guides, any spirit guides, their job is to lead you to your own self and your own self-activation.
I don't feel it was a guide. I feel that there was lessons that we were both exchanging.
Same thing. Oh, you are each other's guides.
Okay.
I did not ever mean to imply that the idea is only one way, for it never is. You are being of service to any spirit guide by interacting with them and allowing them to do what excites them.
I have one more question.
Proceed.
About eyes and the colors of eyes.
Hey.
I want to know if different colors represent different things or signify.
No.
No?
Do you believe me?
No.
Thank you. Why would there be a difference if you did not create there to be different meanings within
Why
the
are there only a
differences?
few different colored eyes? Why is there only blue, green, hazel, brown?
There are many more, and they are changing rapidly as you change the ideas of yourself. There are already overtones of the idea you call amber and violet in your civilization. There are many, many, many fluctuations and subtleties that represent an idea that is a blending of the mass consciousness.
Do they represent different qualities in different people?
In a sense, they can. Again, many of these ideas will be symbolically archetypal according to who it is that's doing the perceiving as well.
What color are your eyes?
White.
All white?
With what you would call enlarged pupils that would make them appear to be almost all black. But the actual coloring of what you would call the iris is white, or whitish gray. At this time, we will extend to you once again our appreciation and our enjoyment of the vibration of your crystalline, unconditional love and sharing. We appreciate your willingness to allow us to experience you, for thus it expands our knowledge of all the different ways and all that it has of manifesting itself and creates that much more of the universe for us to explore. We thank you for allowing us to share equally in this way and for living with us in our dreams together. We bid you exciting dream lives and life dreams. Our unconditional love and energy to you for whatever your imagination so desires to make use of in this way. Pleasant dreams, pleasant journeys, ecstatic life and love. We bid you a fond and loving good day.
Good night.
Good day.